Liverpool have beaten Arsenal at the Emirates in front of a record crowd. So let's talk about it. Well, it is definitely the WSL start that Liverpool would have hoped for, but definitely the start that Arsenal wanted to avoid. One of them walks away with 3 points, and it does happen to be Liverpool, who came in as the visitors. Liverpool haven't won an away WSL game in over 3 years. The last time they did that was back in 2020 against Bristol City. So it pretty much was in the time since Bristol City was in the WSL. They got down to the championship and then came back. That entire time, Liverpool hadn't won an away WSL game. That is mad. And the last time the Arsenal lost an opening game was actually against Liverpool back in 2016. So a lot of written and unwritten history, a lot of streaks being broken for a team like Liverpool, and unfortunately unwanted streaks for Arsenal, who now have lost the last 3 WSL games. If you're counting last season, that hasn't happened since 2014. So again, a lot of good stuff for Liverpool, not so much for Arsenal. But Jonas Eidevall's side was very much read like a book, and today we're going to tactically break that down. Without further ado, without too much talking, let's just jump straight into it. We do know that Arsenal love to build from the back, whether they starting as 3 in the back or 4 in the back. Most of the time, even if they are playing 4 in the back, they're just building up with 3 as one of the fullbacks pushes up pretty high. They love to use that central movement to finally end up their final, attack on the wings. They do this because they want to, they do this because they're able to, and they do this because that's where they deploy their players. For this game against Liverpool, they had Chloe Lacasse and McCabe putting these triangles on the wings to be able to connect with the winger, whether that be Ford or whether that be Monum that was pushing and overlapping with Lacasse, which is what we saw happen quite often. Let's start pretty easy and see how they were building up in the first half and compare it to what we saw in the second half. Starting off here with a build-up pattern that we see pretty occasionally. This is nothing crazy with Lotte Wubben-Moy starting with the ball off to Leah Volti and Monum here. Monum and Chloe Lacasse were ones that were interchangeably working together, so we will see Chloe Lacasse later on in the sequence here. But again, starting with Lotte Wubben-Moy, you see that the Liverpool players aren't aggressively pressing, but their presence is there. They exchange a few passes, again, very wary of the fact that Monum is there. She is then released, and one thing that I want to highlight is these central spaces that will make a lot more sense in the second half. So I've highlighted these central empty spaces that Arsenal had the freedom to play around that you won't see in the second half. Monum is able to move, again, Leah Volti moving with her, off to Chloe Lacasse, and kind of Liverpool is playing a game of chase rather than a game of we're stopping you here. They're chasing after the ball. They're chasing Leah Volti here, and then they're chasing Monum, and then they're chasing Lacasse. Arsenal were playing how they wanted to do, at least in the opening 20-25 minutes in the game. With the central space, Leah Volti is able to go in there. She does. The ball is passed into her. Chloe Lacasse is making a run. You can see 3 of the Liverpool players really are after her. Again, you see a lot of central space here. Arsenal could play it in the middle. They would have that option. Obviously, Russo is a runner, makes that run. And that is where the ball ends up. You can see Chloe Lacasse behind with those 3 players that were marking her. Really nice how she almost she acts as a magnet to some of these defenders, which I love that from Chloe Lacasse. But again, Leah Volti to Chloe Lacasse is making that run. Russo gets the initial ball, and that is how Arsenal wanted to play. That's how they want to play, kind of building from the middle to the wing to the middle again to making a run. That's how dynamic they want to be, and they had the freedom to do that. And consistently during this pattern, you saw there was options in the middle and there was a lot of space in the middle. Now let's take another example from the other wing. Leah Volti involved in this again. Some of the central spaces, this is a little bit higher than the previous action, but you can see both Ford and McCabe were asking for it. This is a triangle that worked very nicely in the first half. The Katie McCabe Ford, again, Katie McCabe was playing more of a wing back position, so she was the one overlapping frequently with Ford. But again, Leah Volti, McCabe, Ford, they can go centrally to the wing again, to centrally again. Kim Little is an option as well if she wanted to be there. So Leah Volti from the middle, gone to the wing, and then back to the middle, and then very nicely releases it back on the wing because they exchange a few more passes. Again, this is 5:22. 5:30 and you've already released your runner on the wing. Again, there's some spaces that Arsenal could have gone to in the middle if they really wanted to. Fast forward 10 more minutes. This was off a break. McCabe and Ford working together. Again, releases the pass pretty nicely. This had gone from somewhere in the middle really to the wing and then back to in the box is what you wanted those final passes to be. And a lot of these sequence, a lot of the examples that I'm showing you led up to Arsenal shots on target. This is also to mention that Laws had an incredible game for Liverpool in goal. So kudos to that. Again, Liverpool running and chasing, plenty of mid-space for Arsenal to expose if they wanted to. Now, what happened was Liverpool can tell that Arsenal were doing this at ease. And Liverpool were like, hey, you know what? Since their players are already positioned up there, since, Chloe Lacasse and Frida Monum were on those, I guess, ends of the field, let's keep them there, but let's push them there on purpose. Let's put McCabe and Ford in uncomfortable situations where they either have to go back or they're being forced on the wing because they feel uncomfortable. Liverpool get their goal off the break. Horrible defending from Arsenal. You also have to kind of question why Zinsberger put the ball there, because it looked like that was where the Liverpool pressed. So definitely decisions to be questioned from why Arsenal put themselves in that position. But looking at Liverpool's block, they dropped their numbers massively. They got that goal, and really for Liverpool, once they got the goal, it was like, let's just defend and defend smartly. At the end of the day, Arsenal on paper is a tougher team to beat. They haven't beaten Arsenal in quite some time. For Liverpool, they needed to defend, but defend smartly. And that was making sure they're playing a really nice, tight block. And like I mentioned, pushing Arsenal on the wings and on the sides where they didn't want to be, and pretty much cut off any central options that they wanted to have. McCabe, like I mentioned and highlighted in the first half, was a pretty frequent player to connect those passes from the middle to the wing and vice versa. We can see her here, but she's being pressed, and in these white circles here is all that Liverpool press that is in the middle that you kind of cut off all that middle service. You can see here that Ford is there, and Ford wants to intercept it. In fact, Catley has pushed up high to kind of fill up that void. But there's not many options. Liverpool are overwhelming them in numbers in the middle. What McCabe has to do is go a little bit back, and then, Jen Beattie gets the ball, they put it in the middle, right. But even when they're putting it in the middle, they're being outnumbered by Liverpool in the middle. So this is 53-39. I believe Arsenal kind of try to keep passes moving forward and backwards, kind of in the middle, really not much progression. And you can tell they can get pretty high up on the pitch in terms of they can start a pretty dangerous attack, but they're still going backwards because they're being outnumbered in the middle. Look at all these purple shirts. There's really not many options they can take. The only option they have is pushing it to the side. So Leah Volti has no other option but to pass it on to Catley. Catley does a few passes, they lose possession, and kind of what you see is desperation crosses. These crosses, kind of almost like a set piece cross from open play, Arsenal had to do multiple times. This was in the 54th minute, again in the 56th minute, and it's really funny that the positions are almost identical. You've got the in-swinger here with McCabe and Ford, but Ford is boxed out with 3 players, so even if she is to go to McCabe, the only option is to cross it, because Ford technically is not so much of an option unless she dropped in and tried to receive the ball right there. But even if she's to drop here, she's technically boxed out. The in-swinger, again, the only option she can go to is McCabe, because Ford is being boxed out by at least 3 players. So Liverpool pushed Arsenal on the wings, forced them at the wings, because essentially they had no other option. And even when they were on the wings, their players and options were boxed. Those triangles that you saw at the start between who I mentioned was Walty and McCabe and Ford, they were able to move with ease. They were able to go centrally on the side. Where they wanted to go, they could. Here, they were being boxed out. They couldn't. They're regaining possession. Leah Volti gets the ball. Again, the only open options she has is on this wing and on this other wing. With a few more passes, she goes onto this wing, but really nothing comes out of it. So you needed a little bit of creativity, you needed runs, and ultimately breaking down that low block, which Arsenal really, really struggled against. How you attempt to break a low block is with a lot of short movement, a lot of short passes, compact that middle. If Liverpool are outnumbering you in the middle, try to outnumber them too. Don't play into their game. Don't play into their trap. Again, this is speaking from an Arsenal perspective. From a Liverpool perspective, they got their goal and all they needed to do was defend. And even if something had happened and they conceded, they're still walking away from an away game against Arsenal at the Emirates. That, Liverpool standards, is pretty good. Again, given the record that they have against Arsenal and the record that they have with away WSL games, really. For Arsenal, they were sloppy. There was no creativity. They did not want to encounter that problem in the middle. They did nothing to really address what was happening centrally. They were going on the wings, and what you needed was those passes and runs. And we saw moments of hope, or actually one moment of hope, really, here in the 76th minute. Leah Volti, in my eyes, one of the best midfielders in the game. That I don't need to say that, but she's got good vision. Russo making a run. Again, this is a low block. You can already tell she's being boxed out. Makes a run, and Russo is on it. Obviously, Laws gets to the ball there. But the point here was Arsenal failed tactically, they failed to adapt, and they failed to make changes. On top of that, they were sloppy with a lot of their passes, and there was not enough creativity. This is an issue that I think Jonas Eidevall has to address. This is an issue that they need to get to work very, very fast, because the WSL has no waiting. The FA Cup and the Conti Cup also has no waiting. They're already out of the Champions League. Being able to go back on a plan B or a plan C or whatever it may be is really, really important, specifically for a team of the standard of Arsenal. Breaking low blocks, you need to be an expert of breaking low blocks, especially when you're in the WSL. So for Liverpool, this is massive momentum for them. It's great to see Matt Beard's side start on a very high note. I think with Liverpool, they've just lacked consistency. They've made pretty good signings, specifically Grace Fist, in my example, was fantastic this game. She did really good work boxing out McCabe and Ford in the second half. Excited to see Hogg start for them. I don't need to talk much about her. If you've been watching her at Roma, she's a beast up top. So for Liverpool, this is great momentum. This is the result they probably most definitely wanted. 3 points away from the Emirates is great work. But for Arsenal, Jonas Eidevall clearly not happy. Again, understandably, there's some injuries here and there. Noel Maritz was not in for them, but with the squad and the players that they have, like I mentioned, Leah Volti, Cooney Cross, maybe I would have liked to see her a little bit earlier just because you needed those breaks, you needed those vision long passes that she could have done. Palova, again, boxed out. But those are the players that you kind of wanted. Again, I don't know what they were given or told to do, but those are the movements that they wanted to happen. And actually, once they could have gotten that one goal to equalize, momentum could have changed. Liverpool here were riding on so much confidence, and rightfully so. So much like, we've got this down. And a goal could have hit a lot of that confidence. But this is why I love the WSL. This is why it's so fun. I'm very happy it's back, along with so many other leagues kicking off. It's fantastic. Liverpool, Arsenal, who would have guessed that this was going to be a result? A record crowd at the Emirates, which is fantastic. Over 50,000 people. Exactly where we want the game to keep going. Hopefully we're able to see these numbers not only at the Emirates, but Stamford Bridge and across the many other games that these big clubs are playing. Similar for Manchester City, for United at Old Trafford. You want to see those numbers across and not just in one stadium for one team. Let me know your opinions on this video. What did you think of Liverpool's performance, Arsenal performance? How did you enjoy this video? How did you break it down? I want to hear all your opinions down below. And as always, to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you later.